All right, let's take a look at the poll results. Could mass changes ever make you lose interest in college football? 43% of you say they've got me regardless. 5%, if it becomes semi-pro. 2% said mega conferences would drive you away. 50% said already getting there. This really surprised me. I thought and this is Tennessee. This is Knoxville, Tennessee, which is a college football crazy town. I thought that would be 60% or higher for they've got me regardless. If I'm a college football guy, I'm paying attention to these types of things.
Is it not one of those things that we have this guy that texts our show, I'll never listen to your show again, about once a week? How much of it is that, right?
Complaining about something on the show.
Yeah, we all got those, yeah.
And it's just that I did something that made him mad. Like at the end of the day, I think there's a little bit of that of fans are frustrated,
Could be.
but I don't think it means they're going to go away.
Yeah, not having the connection, but oh, by the way, there's nothing better. So I'm still going to consider.
The deal is anybody who runs a business has to look at their business and think, this isn't untouchable. You have to look at all the things that could fall apart. And if I'm in college football right now, if I'm the NFL, it's the only place where I'm not thinking like that.
Yeah.
College football, I'm a little concerned that all this change at once could mess things up for me. All right, very quickly, Florida State and Clemson have already filed lawsuits against the ACC's grant of rights agreement to see if they might be able to escape for greener, as in money, pastures. This week, a trustee member at UNC came out and said that due to an imbalance with the budget woes at Carolina, they need to leave the ACC or the ACC is going to need to reconstruct itself, which sounds a lot like let's boot some of the dead weight. 3 schools publicly talking about leaving. 7 schools have all gone to check out the league contracts. Will, is the ACC salvageable? Can all these guys ever come back together and be pals?
Not as a power conference. I mean, I think we're almost there anyway, where we have 3 tiers. We have the SEC and the Big Ten, then we have the ACC and the Big 12.
Who should be dealing right now with some sort of merger,
yes,
in my opinion.
Yeah, and then we have the group of 5, and that's kind of what we have. But the thing is, if someone could have gotten out of these contracts, they would have already. For the idea that they're going to jump to the SEC, ESPN's not going to negotiate against themselves to pay North Carolina more money, Clemson more money, Florida State more money. So I do think for right now, yeah, it is salvageable, and they should just accept their new normal, which is that you are a mid-major.
Yeah, in existing, it's salvageable, but like Will said, in being a major player in their mind, no, they're not.
They're already making less money from the playoff now. They're going to take less share.
Yeah, absolutely. And that tells you everything you need to know about where you fall in the landscape.
There are tons of analysts who will tell you that the only school worth getting anymore is North Carolina. Their value is here. Everybody else is kind of an incremental thing, depending on where you are. There are people, I've read it in The Athletic this week, that there's a thought that the Big Ten or the SEC might just grab North Carolina, and that's it. Sit at an uneven number. ACC's uneven right now. The Big Ten was uneven for years. I can't see that happening, though. I think there's this thought that Florida State and Clemson, well, you're already in those states. This isn't about states anymore. We did that with the cable network.
It's not cable television household,
yes,
right?
It's now becoming a programming for television.
Brand.
And the Clemson and Florida State brands are so good,
Yep.
I think you'd go past North Carolina in the SEC if you got them.
Well, would the average person watching us right now in Maryville, Powell, North Knoxville, wherever you might be, rather watch Tennessee versus Clemson or Tennessee versus North Carolina? Tennessee, Florida State, Tennessee versus Virginia Tech, right? I mean, those are still the biggest brands that bring the most eyeballs. I agree with you. I think that there's a ton of value there.
Could you see, I mean, clearly North Carolina is more valuable than anybody else, but could you see one of these leagues just grabbing North Carolina and saying that's it?
I could see the Big 12 doing it because they're lacking in that
12?
brand.
Okay.
Excuse me, the Big 12 because they're lacking in that brand. Now, the Big 10, I think they're so loaded in the brands and they've already stockpiled, unless it's on the route of, hey, it's a complete free-for-all and the ACC is dissipating. So they got to go somewhere. Then I think they would take them. But I don't think they would take them as that only move.
But here's the thing: if North Carolina gets out, that means it is a free-for-all. Once one gets out, they're all going to follow the same path.
Yeah,
whoever the first one is. So I look at it, if the Big Ten. Well, we'll talk about this in a second. But if you're the SEC, it would not surprise me. And let me preface this: for those that didn't see what happened to UCLA this week. UCLA is now going to have to pay calimony, as it's being called. I think that's brilliant. Because they left their sister school, California, they're going to have to write them a check for $10 million every year. So they thought they were going to the Big Ten. They're going to make $30, $40 million more. Well, now it's going to be 20 or 30 million more. 10 million a year, they're going to have to write that back to Cal because they're sister schools. There's a bill going through the state of North Carolina right now that UNC and NC State have to stay in the same conference. So let me show you something, what I think would be possible. You add Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, and NC State at some point. If, it's all hinging on North Carolina, we'll get to that in a second, but that way, and then you just split it off into divisions, and you've got basically the old ACC schools, the old SEC schools, and then the old Big 12 Southwest Conference schools. But I mean, Clemson, Florida State have value. North Carolina is the most valuable, and I think Duke, Virginia, whatever, I just think NC State, because this UCLA, California thing, you may get stuck with them. But I think that would be a possibility. I think that's more likely than the SEC just adding North Carolina and stopping.
NC State's like a mid-Carter. That's kind of what you have from NC State. They're not terrible. You're not going to not watch NC State. You'd rather see them than Chattanooga or Akron. But
in terms of football ratings, they're actually better than North Carolina.
Yeah.
So, all right, television ratings each. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. If you think your roof must be good because you don't see stains on your ceiling, think again. You can have a leak inside your home for a long time before you ever see it leak all the way through a ceiling to show you a brown spot up there. Have Daniel Hood Roofing come out, do a free inspection of your roof. They'll take videos to show you what they find. They have a tool that measures the amount of moisture getting through the shingles. And here's the thing, they're not going to try and sell you on a new roof if they don't see any reason for you to need a new roof. And if they do say, you need a new roof, they're going to try and get your insurance company to pay for it, and they have a good track record of doing that. DanielHoodRoofing.com to learn more.